Hello, and thank you for watching this Corn Belt Regional Forecast. I'm Andrew Pritchard, meteorologist with Nutrien Ag Solutions. So check in with the snow depth here on Friday morning. Again, we continue to slowly erode this snowpack here from the northern plains into parts of the central and eastern Corn Belt. Here in Champaign, Illinois, where our office is located right about here, starting to get patchy snow cover on there, just mostly on the grassy surfaces and primarily in the shadowy areas. Some of the rural areas here where they get plenty of sunshine, actually starting to see that snowpack be eaten away. And we'll continue to do that over the weekend here. Most of the snow here in the eastern Corn Belt probably going to be gone by the time we get to the end of the weekend. Now, it has been a cold start to November as we analyze month to date the maximum temperature anomaly here. And so we're looking here this corridor from the Central Plains into the mid and lower Mississippi Valley here, where the core of that coldest air has temperatures over the just month to date averaging 10 to 15 degrees cooler than average. And we can flip over here and look at the 2-day average temperature anomaly and just play this out going back to the last week of October into the last 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of November, and you can just watch these cold air outbreaks or these lobes of cold air just kind of rotate into the region from the Canadian Prairie. Here's the first one that came around Halloween. We have the next one around November 8th. And then here is the most recent wave of cold air here that overtook the eastern 2/3 of the country. So this has been the pattern, the reloading of cold air across the Canadian Prairie, and that just dropping into the Corn Belt. And the good news is here we are going to kind of shake that pattern, not shifting to a rapid warm-up, but at least shifting out of this pattern that's just delivering wave after wave of increasingly cold air to the Midwest. Now, as we look at the next 5 days, it's going to be a slow transition here as we deal with this pattern again that has a broad ridge featured over the western half of North America, but still dealing with troughing overall across the eastern third of the country. And that is going to keep the eastern Corn Belt here generally along and east of the Mississippi River here, which unfortunately does include us here in Champaign, Illinois, keeping it cool over the next 5 days. The warm-up is very slow. Now, by the time we get to November 21st through 25th, shaking the stronger cold air anomalies here, but still holding on to an average to below average temperature pattern across the Midwest. And that is just because if we really wanted to warm things up, we need to really flip the pattern here and go into something that features a trough in the west and a ridge in the east. That would shift the cold air, off to the west with warmer temperatures building into the Corn Belt, and that's just simply not where we are headed. The good news is that we are shaking this pattern. Now, as we look at precipitation, we are going to keep it rather dry, especially over the next 5 days, taking it through the weekend into early next week. There is some question here about how much precipitation we may see from some that sneaks through here during the day on Sunday, perhaps some light precipitation in this region. And then as we look to next week, looking around looking around Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, for the potential for some precipitation in this area as we develop a couple of storm systems tracking through from the southern plains, from the southwest really, into the Ohio River Valley, potentially dropping some precipitation on the mid-south and the eastern Corn Belt here. But again, not a precipitation pattern that's really going to be favoring any significant snowfall or significant rainfall across the Corn Belt over the next week or so. Over the last 7 days, just taking a look at total precipitation, again, it's been a pattern that features a couple of corridors here, one featuring these little disturbances sneaking out of the Canadian Prairie, bringing some snow to parts of the northern plains, the upper Midwest, and even the eastern Corn Belt as we talk about that system on Monday. Now, on the flip side, across the south, we've seen a slow-moving area of low pressure, a slow-moving Gulf flow that has brought some rain to parts of the southern U.S. into the southeast. So the corridor of rain off to the south, corridor of light accumulating snow off to the north, that has been the pattern over the last week or so. Checking in with the satellite picture then as we wake up on Friday morning, here is that slow-moving low right now bringing some cloud cover and precipitation to the southeastern U.S. Across the central U.S., high pressure dominating. It's going to be a beautiful day in the central and eastern Corn Belt. Tons of sunshine. Our warmest temperature here in Champaign, Illinois, warming up to 40 degrees for the first time since last weekend. We have our next disturbance, though, beginning to organize off to the west. They're seeing some precipitation in the Pacific Northwest as we look at the radar here. The disturbance making its way ashore here on Friday morning. Here's the rain off to the southeast. And again, we'll be watching for just a quick moving frontal boundary to bring the chance for some light precipitation to this region as we get through the weekend. Temperatures now at 6 o'clock on Friday morning. Cool spot across the Corn Belt right now is across parts of the mid-Mississippi Valley, centered over parts of central Illinois. A weak frontal boundary moved through there over the last 24 hours, and again with that dense snowpack, we did see temperatures dropping down into the teens once again across central Illinois, Warmer in surrounding areas with overnight lows in the 20s and 30s across the Corn Belt. The other cold spot can be found well off to the north, northern Minnesota, dropping into the teens and single digits this morning as well. Now we'll go ahead, we'll dive right in and diagnose the precipitation pattern here and the upper level pattern that will be driving it. Checking in first with the opportunity for some light weekend precipitation. Now let's go ahead and we'll step back. Again, the map on the left, we're looking at 500 millibar heights and vorticity. Again, areas of vorticity, these vorticity maximum. If you look at the map on the right, we're looking at surface pressure and precipitation. These disturbances are often how we can identify areas of low pressure, areas of cloud covering and precipitation, just broadly speaking. You can see that up here as well, this big upper level low across the Hudson Valley, creating some snow across parts of Quebec and Ontario this morning. So let's take the drawings off and let's get this thing going through the weekend. As we start to head through the day on Friday, again, this high pressure dominating much of the Corn Belt, keeping things quiet as we get the weekend started. Now here comes this first wave. You notice it on the left side. You see it kind of diving in, and then over on the right, the precipitation forecast that accompanies that. Now we're looking at some very light rain, maybe some light snow flurries across parts of Wisconsin, but talking about Illinois or Iowa and Missouri here, midday on Sunday, and then potentially getting into parts of Illinois during the day during the evening on Sunday, bringing some very light precipitation to the region. On the backside here, still looking at some upper level energy here, producing maybe some very light rain showers back across parts of the northern plains, and again some light snow possible across northern Minnesota and northern Wisconsin. But that's the precipitation chance here as we talk about the weekend into early next week, and it's not much. I think across this region, probably dealing with more in the way of cloud cover and gloomy skies, and again maybe some light drizzle accompanying the storm system. But the best chance for precipitation as we head through the weekend really going to be found during the day on Sunday across parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Elsewhere, a low chance here in parts of Missouri and Illinois, but I think the chance really rapidly drops off as we head into the late part of the day Sunday into early Monday. And again, maybe some light drizzle possible across parts of the Dakotas as we start the day on Monday. Otherwise, we're going to start turning our attention back toward the west, watching a real mess. If we kind of just play this out over the weekend, minding its own business is this cutoff low kind of situated off the Yucatan Peninsula here in the Pacific Ocean. And it just sits there until we get a system or a trough that kind of swoops in from the west and gives this thing a nudge in our direction. So here it comes. This happens on Tuesday and Wednesday. We see this wave coming in behind it, giving it a little nudge. And now this thing comes shooting across the Midwest, or across the Central Plains into the Midwest, arriving here around Thursday. And that brings the first chance of a more organized storm system to the central parts of the United States. This could bring some rain to parts of Kansas, Missouri, and Illinois. Potential for some cold air on the north side, bringing another swath of snow to parts of the northern plains and into the upper Midwest and Great Lakes. That would be Nebraska, into parts of Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. Again, we're looking at Thursday into Friday with this first system getting kicked out into the region. Then question marks surround what's left. Now we get this trough that kind of swings through, combining with the disturbance from the Pacific Ocean. That is what leads to the storm system here on Thursday. But then what happens with the energy that's left back here? Let me go ahead and we'll play this one more time. How long does it take then for this next wave that's now cut off across the southwest to once again eject into the middle section of the country? Right now, it looks like it wants to do that next weekend, but with these cutoff lows, it's extremely hard to kind of determine how quickly they're going to move across the region and what it's going to take to push them across the region. Much like with this one situated here, it took that wave coming in from the west and kicking it into the region, or kicking it into the central U.S. So big question marks, light opportunities for precipitation as we head through the weekend into very early next week across the northern plains into parts of the central Corn Belt. But then better chances for precipitation as we head into mid to late week across the central plains into the Ohio River Valley in the eastern Corn Belt. Total precipitation, we'll just play this through the weekend first. This would be total precipitation through Tuesday. So looking at precipitation here Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. This is that opportunity for some light precipitation here, primarily Sunday into Monday with that slow-moving disturbance. As we get into the middle part of the week, now we're going to see this next storm system be kicked out through the central plains, and that starts to drop some precipitation from the central plains into the eastern Corn Belt as we head through Thursday and Friday. Right now, not looking at any significant flooding or heavy precipitation, but certainly looking at the opportunity for anywhere up to a half, maybe an inch of rain here as we head through Thursday. Then we'll have to watch the next disturbance looming off back to the southwest. That could kick across the region here late next week into next weekend, bringing another swath of precipitation to this same region. So we'll go ahead then, we'll look at the good news. Not looking at any more significant accumulating snow as we head through Sunday and Monday. Certainly the opportunity, we're looking at the probability of snowfall over 3 inches and seeing some higher probabilities, around 50% across northern Wisconsin into the UP of Michigan. But elsewhere across the Corn Belt, not talking about any significant accumulating snow over the next 5 to 7 days. If there was going to be any big accumulating snow, it's going to be what we watch for late next week into the weekend as that next cutoff low moves across the country. Now, talking about temperatures, again, if we wanted to rapidly warm up the Corn Belt, we would need to flip to a pattern here that features a big trough in the west and a ridge in the east, and that is simply not where we are headed, as I just kind of play the background state of the flow for you over the next week. Now, the reason it is going to be slow to warm up across the eastern Corn Belt is we're going to kind of reinforce this pattern that has troughing over the eastern half of the country. You can kind of see it there. My drawing didn't really match up well, but this big trough that kind of reestablishes itself by the time we get to Monday and Tuesday, and that is again going to keep things slow in the warm-up department until we get to mid to late next week. That is when we'll start to kick these disturbances out of the southwest and would at least give us the opportunity for brief warm-ups in the form of warm air advection on the leading edge of these storm systems. You get the air of low pressure, warm air coming in on the north side, and then the cooler air comes swooping in on the backside. So any warm up here is going to be brief, likely across the eastern Corn Belt, and likely not really even getting back to average until we get to mid to late next week. We'll see that here with the temperature anomaly forecast. Again, looking at temperature difference from average, and right now, again, across the central and eastern Corn Belt, holding on to this colder pattern where temperatures are still 10 to 20 degrees cooler than average as we wake up on Friday morning, though we are starting to warm up now back toward the west. The western Corn Belt, the high plains, you will be enjoying some warmth as we head through the weekend and into early next week. Just playing this, though, you watch again, notice the eastern Corn Belt. Maybe the blue color would be better and more appropriate here, but just playing this loop one more time as we head through the early part of the week, not shaking those cooler temperature anomalies east of the Mississippi River until we get to Wednesday and Thursday. And again, right now we're looking at just freezing this at Thursday at 7 p.m. You're seeing temperatures that are warmer than average nosing into the eastern Corn Belt, and that is exactly what I pointed out, warm air advection in advance of that approaching late week storm system with cooler temperatures already coming in on the backside. So no extended warm-up, no Indian summer on the horizon here. If you're like me, and maybe the cold air was exciting for a second, but you're ready for that, even average warmth here, it just doesn't look like we're going to be looking at any sustained warm periods across the Corn Belt as we go through the next couple of weeks. Taking a look at temperatures then, just to wrap this up, your highs for the day on Friday, warm off to the west, temperatures in the 50s and 60s across parts of Nebraska and Kansas. The cool spot off to the north, 20s and 30s in the upper Midwest. High temperatures in the upper 30s to near 40 in the eastern Corn Belt. Let's go ahead and we'll just click through slowly with this, taking it through the next couple of days. If I can get it paused here, Friday, we've covered that. Saturday now, it's very similar. Sunday, high temperatures in the 50s off to the south, 30s to the north. Sunday, high temperatures in the 60s and to near 70 across southern Kansas. Looking at low temperatures then, below freezing for all of us here as we wake up on Friday morning. Similar story on Saturday morning, although we do start to warm up above freezing. Look at that, above freezing lows here in parts of Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, even into South Dakota here Sunday morning, Monday morning, Tuesday, Wednesday. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the evolution of the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Monday morning ag forecast video, and I will be back to talk about the Corn Belt region in our Tuesday morning regional forecast video. Have a great day and a wonderful weekend.